welcome to another quick video in regards to data-driven marketing here for All Things Digital by Kite. And we already talked about what is data before. We talked about the customer journey in the last video. So now we talk about tracking, conversion tracking, for example. So what actually is conversion tracking, right? You want to not only run campaigns based on data, of course, and then you pray that things work out. You obviously also want to know whether or not you're successful. So you have to track your success. So you can track purchases, for example, sign-ups, downloads, visits to your landing pages, any event that can help you whether or not to know whether or not you're successful. In order to do this, however, there are usually a few common challenges that you have to overcome. So one is gathering the data. Usually the data that you need is somewhere out there, and data that you have that doesn't always match. And then also the data that you have is not always accessible or formatted in the right way. So you have like different data types, for example, floating around so that you cannot just compare all of them. So usually the accessible formatted data that we have is like rather small compared to all the data that we have and the data that we would like to have. Then putting this data together is obviously also a challenge because you need to know where do I get the data from, how do I format it so that I can compare it, that it makes sense, and so that you're not just making things up. Also, what happens quite frequently is that we create data silos. You know those silos, right, where you store whatever you want to store in there. So it's imagine you have like data from your potential target audience, like behavioral data, for example, or demographic data, psychographic data, and so on, but you don't find a way to actually match them, which could be an issue, right? So collecting data in silos and stacking them up and collecting lots of data is rather easy, but then making it work to mix them, connect them, compare them is rather difficult. That's why then maybe you would want to think about either building an in-house team that focuses on data or find the right agency to work with to outsource this task. A few example strategies that could help understand what you can do once you actually collect the data follow now. So for example, you could use weather data to predict customer buying patterns. So, or let's just imagine Grab, or here in Thailand, or Uber, and so on. So when it starts to show that it's going to rain, like at 3 p.m. today, for example, I just checked the weather before I took this video. It says 80% chance of rain. So I checked this and then I see, okay, it's probably going to rain. Lots of people are going to Uber or Grab because they don't want to get wet, right? So then Grab could prepare for that. I'm not saying, or Uber, I'm not saying that they're going to hike prices, but you know what happens when it's raining, right? This could be for rides, for food, for whatever. You also want to look at creating a hub to centralize all the data. Because if you, again, what we said earlier, if you have the data in all those silos, it's hard to combine them and then to use them together. So if you centralize all the information that you're collecting in a single platform, rather than in different platforms, it makes it easier. I'll give you an example. So we worked here for a client that should not be named, a rather big client, an online marketplace here, and they actually have different systems for different teams. So let's assume they would have like a team that sells like cars, for example, and then another team that sells property, for example. But they work for the same company, but those teams use different systems, different backends, and those backends are not related. Sounds strange. That's the case though. Not necessarily with the same examples, but yeah, you see where I'm getting at. So you should definitely have a centralized platform where all the information is being stored, because there could be some cross-reference possibilities. You never know if you don't try, right? So that would make it much easier. You should definitely also, as a no-brainer, use demographic data, of course, because that improves ad performance immensely. So and that's the easy data to collect, because social media will help you with this. So use demographic data. That could be one of the first steps actually that you could be doing. You could also use trends from one marketing channel to influence or to see what works in another one. So if you say, okay, this certain kind of video seems to work on Instagram very well, for example, maybe that also a similar style, not the same video, don't just cross post all the time, of course, but a similar style. Maybe a similar style could also work on another platform. And then you can try that. In order to measure success, to see if you really are successful, you should measure success in smaller steps, not just do I make my money in the end? So yeah, that's the overall goal, of course, but you could also look at do I achieve goal ABC until I reach that overall goal, which is increase in revenue. You could also use PPC, pay-per-click, PPC, CPC, to get more from your email list, I believe. If you want to know more on this, we also have an article coming up on how to improve your email marketing. And you can also look at how industry changes actually impact your campaigns, because luckily, things aren't always staying the same within our industries, right? So when something changes within the industry, does it impact your campaigns, and how does it impact your campaigns? Data will tell you. So now, if you understand this, the question, of course, is how do we set up a data-driven strategy? And I have a checklist for you, of course. It's in the blog post, and it's also going to be like in the longer videos, of course, that you can check out on the link, where you can just go through. Step 1 would be set up a checklist for the data. Step 2, gather the data. Step 3, collect and organize the data. Step 4, build a team. Step 5, get the organizational buy-in. Step 6, measure, track progress, and so on. So you can just check all those things when you want to so you can check all the things when you check out the article or the long form video here. Okay, that's it for today. One more coming up where we recap everything, and I hope it helps so far. If you have any questions, please do shout out. We try to get back to you as soon as possible.